Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go! Hey everybody, it's George the Antique Nomad. It is so fun that people are able to thrift and go to auctions and get things in inexpensive places and make money. But there is only one reason that that's the case, and that is because some serious collector who really loves the stuff that the thrifters are finding understands its value and really wants that piece. If it wasn't for the collectors and the retail market, we would have no videos and no thrifting community on YouTube. Reselling only exists because there's demand. So the question is, where do people go when they're serious collectors, and where do the best items go as they move up the food chain from the thrift store to the serious collector? That is the reason that high-end online sites like First Dibs and Cherish exist. It's the reason that Etsy works. It's the reason that eBay can sell. And it's the reason that there are real-world antique shows. And real-world antique shows are a fantastic way to see what the people who are serious collectors look for and why, and what they're willing to pay. So we are going to my last serious antique show of the Florida season at the West Palm Beach Antique Fairplex, and we're going to show you a little bit of what I've gotten recently in my booth, and then some of the amazing things that other dealers are bringing to the higher end of the market. Welcome to the show. One nice thing about going to an antique show is that they have literature out for other antique venues and places to see. Here we go into the main hall, and we will see what awaits us here.
My neighbor has this wonderful check basket light, and that is just gorgeous. I just wanted to show that because we don't see very many of these.
Look how fantastic these vases are. Beethoven and Mozart, this would have been from the Victorian period when you were really showing your elevated taste by showing that you were a patron of the arts and appreciated fine music. They're just beautiful. The opaline glass, the gilding on them, and then the detail in the faces is just incredible. And I have to admit, I've had that hairstyle a few times, so I appreciate Beethoven there. They have a French signature that you see on the lower right. These are quite exquisite. For those of you who are Beatles fans, she is a Beatles collector and sells Beatles memorabilia, and she's got the real stuff. All of these pins are from the era. The fan club made this little dexterity game where you move everything around. And the Beatles booster with the hair, because their hair was quite controversial when they first came out. These are little fun. Are these buttons? These little ones with the faces?
Those are tie.
They're tie tacks. Okay. Oh, how neat. Get your Beatles buttons here. Beatle booster. This is a flash view, so you notice it's got their names over their faces. And then it flashes back, and now you just see their hair, because again, the hair was a big feature. And look at the scarf in there. It's pretty amazing, and boy, look how young they look. Only one of them is still alive, and that's Paul McCartney, second from the right there. Paul McCartney did Silly Love Songs in 1976, although some people would argue that he's done them his whole career. She's actually got a lot of fun Bakelite pieces too. Take a look here. She's got a bunch of the pencil sharpeners. She's flipping them so we can see what they do on the bottom, so that gives you the idea. Because the other ones she's got face up, because they all have characters who were popular cartoon characters and fictional characters in the 1930s and 40s when Bakelite was so hot. So here we have the Disney characters, including Pablo the Penguin, which is one that you don't see very often. She's got from the World War II era this USA Navy plane, and that's really neat. And then she's got Pablo again, and there's Charlie McCarthy, who of course was Edgar Bergen's puppet son, I guess you would say. Canthus Bergen always talked about how he got more attention than she did as a child, although she turned out okay too.
And there's Popeye with his pencil, so you know what to do. I just learned recently that Popeye was actually based on a real person. And there's a big story about how the guy he was based on was some actual sailor who walked around with a corncob pipe and had lost an eye in a fight and was a tough guy. And that's where the guy got the idea for the cartoon, which I never knew before. And this is neat. She also likes World's Fair like I do. So this is from the 1940 World's Fair, which was the second year of the fair on San Francisco Bay. And this is from the New York World's Fair with the Trilon and Paris Fair from the same era. And she's also got this neat piece, which is a compact. I haven't seen that particular one before with the blue enamel. That's really pretty. The other thing she has are a lot of really nice carved Bakelite pieces. Some of these are pins, some are dress clips, some might have been worn on shoes. She's got rings, and she's smart to look for the ones with the carving. Part of the reason Bakelite are actually Catalin, which is the correct name. Bakelite was really just the black and brown. And Catalin was a slight reformulation to take the color, but it was made to be very, very hard, and they found out because of that it could withstand being carved very deeply, so they could make these really great shapes out of it. And the colors are really fun, and people love to wear this stuff. It's been very popular to collect for a long time. Look at the alligator, that's really neat. I think I've seen one other alligator in all these years. I see horses from time to time, and these are pretty nice. They're big size too. And you have a fox head and a couple of Scotty dogs because they were very popular in the 30s. So she's just got a really fun, colorful booth, and she's a really fun, colorful person. And there she is, Jo Ellen. And if you haven't met her before, you will see her in a previous video I did where I showed off all of her eyewear. Look at the back of her dress. It is a watermelon sack, and she said it's old, it's vintage. And I think it's just so fun to see people coming to these shows. They'll dress in rhinestones. We had one couple who would dress as Theodore Roosevelt and his daughter for fun. I mean, people just really enjoy this, and we do too. Lucite Furniture. You know you're in Palm Beach when you see a lot of Lucite Furniture. I like this orange job with this interesting shaped base. That's going to be late 1970s. This one with the gray upholstery is likely to be 1980s or 90s. I tell people to come to antique shows on Sundays to look for bargains in furniture, and wow, here is a bargain. It's an old tea cart. The finish is a little disturbed, so you know it might be a candidate for painting. I know a lot of people like to paint furniture, and when the finish is already a little off, well, that's a good candidate right there. But look how nice that is, having the lift top tray, the big wheel so you can wheel this around as a bar cart. It's technically a tea cart, but a lot of people use them for bar and extra service these days, especially if you live in a smaller place. It's nice to be able to bring a little bit of extra serving room, and it's $25. As is this really cute little set. This is something that somebody made at home back in the 1950s, but my favorite part is the boomerang Formica on the top. I just love that stuff. Again, $25. I have a couple of fun new things that I have not shown before because I just got them in the form of lamps. This neat lamp with the bulbs here is from the 1970s. We used to see these in St. Petersburg all the time. They were big in Florida when they were new. They're very collectible here now. And then this one is a 1980s version, but it's not a reproduction because look at that face. This is not something that was done originally. So this is of its era. It is a wonderful piece, I think, just that long neck and that interesting face. And then next to it, this is really fun. This is also from the 1980s. People keep asking me what's going to be collectible out of the 80s. Well, this is a great piece. This came from a liquor store here in Florida, and it's a music box, and I'm not going to force it because I can't plug it in, but the black and white Scotty are in there, and when you play them, they pop up, kind of like a jack-in-the-box. Really neat piece. Also a new addition to me is this lovely cobalt blue vase from about 1940. I believe that's by Cambridge Glass. And when I was with Jocelyn and Andrew of Crazy Lamp Lady, I bought this Empire Beauty box up in Pennsylvania because I just love the old beauty school cases, and I noticed that they tend to sell for $25 to $35 because they're handy and they're just neat because of the graphics and what they represent. The bank building banks are from about 1900. This is very similar to the Empire building in Vancouver, Canada, which briefly was the tallest building in the English Empire at 11 stories. This one we see fairly often. You can see the screw there, but these are original, and people like the building banks. I like old catalogs, even if I can't read them, and particularly when they are French Art Nouveau catalogs. I don't speak French, as you all know, I massacre it. But look what she's doing. She's a potter making a lovely swan vase. So when you open this up, this is talking all about all the sorts of things that this company makes. So you have floral vases and pottery, ornamentation like the pineapple, and these nice steeple pieces. These are chimneys. These are cornices. Everybody is crazy about these now. All of this old ornamentation, if you can find it, is really, really costly and special. Could probably take these and use them to make patterns, because we have enlargement machines now that they didn't have back when this would have been printed around 1900. So I just think it's a fun and interesting piece, and I'd love to have any of the things shown in it. So it's a very good price, even at $75 now, and it's out of San Francisco. I'm over in St. Pete.
Oh, okay, so you come along.
Yeah.
The Pompano one is definitely worth it.
The Pompano Nautical Show in January. Oh, that's good to know. I hadn't even heard of it. Now, this was made in the 20th century, mainly as a useful and decorative object, but this is a Chinese apothecary chest. You can see all of the different markings on all the little drawers. This would be very useful to somebody with a collection of small items. The reason we know it's 20th century is you can see the little round pulls there. They haven't really been used much, and so if this was a 19th century piece, this would have actually been used in a Chinese pharmacy, and you would see a lot more wear than that. It seems like every season in Florida there's some theme, and the theme this year seems to be Don Quixote. I have seen more figures of Don Quixote this season and bought and sold a few than I've ever seen in all the years I've been doing shows. There was a super party animal named Spuds McKenzie in the late 1980s, and he became controversial because they thought that they were trying to appeal to kids, which was sort of silly because it was mainly very nubile young women shown with Spuds McKenzie. It was really appealing to young men, but he was eventually canceled. Now these lights with his likeness are pretty valuable. This one's priced at $175. And yet another likeness of Don Quixote. This one's in stamped metal. It just seems to be the theme. That must have been a popular motif in the 60s and 70s that's now coming out of the States. As Bakelite and Catalin go, one of the crown jewels in the collection is a Catalin radio from the 1930s. This is a Fada. They're hard to find in good condition. A lot of times they were dropped, they broke, they were thrown away. They usually sell for hundreds and sometimes in the four figures. I like the bottle cap gal next to it as well. Here is a Japanese slot machine priced at $350. If they work and have their key, that seems to be about what they sell for. However, I have 3 in stock and I have not had any takers lately. So I think it's something you've got to find a specific customer to sell. Aw, look at this ad kitty. This is done with raised paint over wood, and this would have originally been a doorstop from about the 1920s or 30s. Something that somebody probably made at home. Very cute and well done. Priced at $115, and that seems like about the price it should sell for today. These folks have a few cute things in here. Look at the dogs climbing over the fence or out of the basket. Hard to tell which that is. Stacy and Wilton Company, Wrightsville, Pennsylvania, copyright 1932. This is Wilton way back when. We see a lot of Wilton pieces from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. When you're at a house sale and you see a bunch of brown leather purses, give them a look, because sometimes in a pile you'll find ones like these. The 3 on the right are alligator. You can see some they've just used the hide in an interesting manner. Some they've actually used legs as part of the design. And then also these with the turn lock from the Art Nouveau era. They have very nice press designs in the leather, generally Art Nouveau style florals. The lock mechanisms usually involve having to turn the little handle in order for the knob to actually unlock, which was a good safety device back then. They were all done in the early 1900s, mostly around 1910, and they sell well, usually in the $100 range, sometimes more. You might not recognize the piece with the sunburst and the shorebird in it as being Masonic, but in fact it is the East Lancashire Masonic Benevolent Institution. This would have likely been something they sold as a fundraiser back around the 1920s. I really like this piece with the pressed coral. Very pretty necklace. Nice Art Deco filigree necklace there. Here's a Royal Masonic Institute of, I think that says Chicago, 1919. And then look what they've done with these old watches. We run into a lot of cute Art Deco watches, ladies' watches that don't really work. They've taken them and joined them together into a necklace, and isn't that fun? And then this one, they've used them as charms on a bracelet. And they've used old bracelets to do it, so I think that's a really fun and interesting repurpose. Now these folks are advertising a plating service for replating, and boy, that can be really handy. You can see how beautifully things came out. A lot of these old fire extinguishers, I'm sure, were just scratched and worn and pitted and had tarnish that couldn't come off. They apparently replate any sorts of copper, silver, nickel, brass, and if you look at the work they've done, it seems to be awfully good. And if you're in Florida, you can reach them this way. I always enjoy these old clacker signs for movies. I've had these before. I usually get about $50 for them. I'm curious what they had on that were before the show, so I'll have to come back and ask. But if you notice, it doesn't really look like anything else in the booth. And sometimes that's a good way to get a deal. Did they do them the same way from the turn of the century to the 40s or 50s, or was there a revival? The bands are different, the way they're set up.
And the quality.
The more ornate they are, the older they are.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, they're fancier if they're older. They're really interesting, though.
Sweetheart bracelets.
Sweetheart bracelets, okay. I did not know what the term was for them, and they generally have either a monogram or a cameo, it seems like.
Yeah, or a locket or a heart, or guys gave them to their sweethearts back in the 40s. That's where it picked up the name.
That's very cute. If you are enjoying this video, please like and comment. Please click the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps us, and it lets you click that bell to be notified of future videos. If you are interested in memberships, that's very helpful to support the channel, and we're very grateful for it. You can click the join button or look for the link in the description. Well, I always enjoy showing Ken and Gail's space because Ken was a history teacher, so he really understands where these things came from. So, for example, this early 19th country dry sink is from Western Pennsylvania, and he gives us some information about that. The wooden ship model, he talks all about how this was a piece built in the 70s. There were a lot of people doing wooden ship models in the 70s, and it looks older because, of course, it's depicting an older ship.
It's the original Buster Brown.
Oh, really? Oh, how interesting. And there he is.
He was in Grove City, Pennsylvania. Took this picture.
Made an appearance, and look at all the kids who came.
The dog is Tig, and he's a pit bull.
Yes, that's right. I remember Tig was a pit bull, and he looked pretty mean to me, but Buster Brown seemed to like him. That is a really great picture. This is a railroad playing card set. Railroads would give out playing cards, and generally what would be on them would be scenes of the scenery along the way, because they hope to get other people, when you took these home and played with them, to take the trip later. This one is Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Railway, the Milwaukee Road, and Lake Michigan to Puget Sound, because they got to Puget Sound about 1909. You see the price when they were new was $1.25, which was actually a lot of money. The price now, more in the $35 range typically for these. Here's a great example of the level of detail that Ken and Gail put into their descriptions. And this is great because if you're a new collector, you get some really interesting information. This is Ecstasy. This was actually Maxfield Parrish's daughter. And I'm sorry for all the overhead lights, but you can read there that his daughter was an 18-year-old freshman at Smith College. It was considered somewhat racy for the time, I guess, because of the gauziness and the fact that she showed a lot of leg. I think it's a wonderful piece, and this one's priced at $450. It is original from the 20s in the larger format. This is something I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, these were made in India, and they're from Indian women's saris. And as their saris wore out, they turned them into bed covers, and they mixed a lot of different patterns.
Oh, neat, just like American quilting used to be.
Exactly.
And for the same reason, because you had to save money, right?
Exactly. So this is called the Canthus Stitch, and a cantha needle was probably about 6 inches long.
Oh,
so
wow.
they would poke it through a number of times, pull it through, and then do the same thing.
So it's not a close stitch at all.
No. Although some women, obviously, like American quilts, were better than others.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the backing. Oh, this is really fascinating. They're very colorful and a lot of fun.
They're colorful, a lot of fun. They hang them as draperies. I've seen upholstery done. I've seen jackets done, handbags.
Wow, and you've got quite a stack of them, it looks like.
Oh, I love them. People love them. And they're very affordable, too. They're easy to care for. You can wash them.
Because they're mainly cotton, right?
They are
yeah,
cotton,
they don't
yes.
do a lot of synthetics there, which is great for me because I can't be around synthetic fabric.
Yeah, which is great. But the patterns are absolutely delightful.
Oh, look at the colors in that. That's so fun.
Yeah, and then look at the back. Oh, this is a pretty one. Look at the back side, too, which is really great.
Oh, that's neat. I love when the back is as interesting as the front. Is there an Indian name for these? Would we call them quilts?
Cantha. K-A-N-T-H-A.
Very cool.
So a cantha quilt.
Wonderful. And what are the price ranges on things like this?
Usually 70 to about 95.
Oh, that doesn't seem bad at all when you consider that a comforter made out of synthetic stuff that you just came off the boat is that price. That seems like a deal.
Exactly. And I have got a lot of repeat business. People will buy one, and they're so addictive, they'll come back and go, oh, we need some more of these. They put them all over their beds. They put them on tables.
I could see people hanging them as tapestry and curtains. And at the same time, if you didn't have a lot of color in a house, which a lot of younger people have started out with very basic white furniture, this is a way to put a big color spot in the middle of your room onto a bed without having to change everything in the house. It's really great.
Yes, and actually, you know what? It fits in really nice with the boho look.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
This is very boho.
It is very boho. Actually, a lot of what you do fits in with boho, and that's such a big area right now. There's a gal on YouTube named a friend of mine named Laura Caldwell who does a Left Coast Revival. She's from Portland too, like you were from originally.
Yeah.
It's pretty groovy, and she is too. And her channel is all about boho. I don't think she knows about these, so I'll have to tell her she needs to watch this episode.
Right, and then they even did scarves. This is interesting. I love these because they mixed a lot of different patterns. Let's not mix it up with over there, but see how...
Oh, that's fun. Yes, where it's like a block quilt with all the different things. That is really neat.
You can wear it. You can use it as a table runner. I've seen them hung over windows.
Oh yeah, because this is scarf size, so you could use it as a valance or any of that.
Yes.
Oh, how fun.
And then the back side's always different too. So.
Well, thank you for introducing me to something new. I'm always excited to see something I haven't seen before.
You're certainly welcome. I've enjoyed it also.
I have never seen this little bird bank before with the hair. It is the Cement National Bank. That's an odd name. 1960s in the plastic. I have to say I think that's really fun, and it has some sort of a maker name on the bottom. Made in England, but I suspect it was used in the United States. Now we're seeing a lot of these hand molds that have come out of latex firms and other glove making firms that have closed in this country. They're usually this size. But this one is gigantic. It's a 10X, and you can see it has in this case, a 1952 date on it, which is older than a lot of what we see, but they said this is a number 50 size porcelain glove mold, and it was for heavy-duty gloves for people working on high-tension wires. So that's a really unusual one, and what a great thing that would be. I could see that in a modernist home as a decorative accent. Priced at $175. And look at this stack of firkins. This whole set is being offered at $950. The firkin originated in England and was a beverage carrier. Sometimes it was milk, sometimes it was beer. And you can always identify the way they're made because they have these attached handles and then the straps around the top that are nailed in. in these cases with squarish nails because they're older. Whatever you might say about Joan Crawford, she was very good about keeping herself busy and making sure that she was available to the public. At one point, when she was between other jobs, she did a WABC program in New York called Through the Years, and it was records and film clips that were reviewed, and they were from the golden era, 1925 to 55, and this is an advertising placard from that. This is something we see. I've found them in thrift stores before. They generally sell for $10 to $15 each now, but I thought it was cool because he went and found a copy of the old Wheaties box, because these were something that you collected out of Wheaties. I think you sent in box tops and a quarter and you got a set. And they had cars from all over the world, not just American. So here we've got a Plymouth, an Austin from England, an Italian Fiat, Packard, Willys, Sunbeam Talbot, Mercedes, and Lancia. I have a Studebaker one in my collection. If you're a car nut, they're really a lot of fun. And of course, this is the 50s. If you notice, a lot of sports teams and a lot of logos are using crests again. That was originally very popular after the Second World War as a style motif. Interesting light bulbs can be collectible too. There's some that have an Art Deco design. This blue one is what they call a cupper. This was in blue, and this was actually supposed to help you with skin damage. There are collectors for little golden books because they cover so many childhood memories and different characters, whether it's Bugs Bunny or Howdy Doody. There are certain things to know about little golden books. There's also these, which are the Elf books by Rand McNally, but the little golden books, some of the really early ones can be rather valuable, and you actually have to look in the back often to see the codes. I don't see it on this one. Let me see if I can find another one that might show you that. Well, so far I'm not finding them, but it is something to look for. There we go. See the letter A? Copyright 1949. A is going to mean this is the first printing, and this is when Howdy Doody was just starting to really become popular. So this one is priced at $15. The later ones in the 70s say a little golden book in script up at the top rather than the printing on the bottom. But these are things you will see in thrift stores sometimes, and you can get them for very little money, and some of them are worth something. So that's an area to watch out for. Or Bolo, as I now understand. Now that I've met Rachel, Bolo, be on the lookout. This is a neat piece here too, advertising these brokers out of Cleveland who were members of the New York Stock Exchange, the Cotton Exchange, etc., etc. And it is a stock print of Adeline. And it has a little poem from Adeline by Tennyson. Nowadays we drag wire carts and little wagons around big antique shows. In the old days, you would have dragged this to shop. This is a nice old wicker shopping cart. You can date it in a sense by the way the wheels are made and the pins. So this is going to be 1930s vintage. It's very cute, and they have it priced at $2.50. And there's Margaret selling a piece of fabric to the customers standing right there. People do really love this stuff, and it's perfect for spring. What a nice fire screen this is. I'm always partial to fire screens. People used to be really confused about these because they'd say, well, this can't block everything out of a fireplace. It was meant to be adjustable. It was so that the lady's makeup would not melt in the heat of the fire. And so it was just really to shield her face. That's why it's just a little square on a pole, and it can adjust up and down. Walker's Excelsior patent log. So what is this exactly?
The propeller, you can see it's hooked up to that long rope.
Right.
You join or hook this up on your stern or your boat, throw that off, and it would spin. And this would spin because it hooks up to that.
Yeah.
And it gets your speed, and then you can go time and speed and chart and convert it to how far you traveled for that day.
Oh, very good. So essentially it's
It's a navigation aid.
Right, and to let you know where you were. Well, that's actually very smart. And this looks, from the printing, it looks like it might have been done about 19-teens.
I'm guessing 1930, but that's my guess.
Oh yeah, it could be as late as that. Things didn't really change much. That's a really interesting device. How much does something like that cost? I've never seen
we're
one.
asking $550 for it. I found one on the internet with the box and everything, and they were asking $1,800 for it.
Wow. Well, your price sounds really good then. It's such a specific thing, and there are people who love nautical, so.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of people. It's an interest getter.
I like these things that are things you've never seen before. I mean, to me, it's what keeps me going. This space is fun because they primarily do original vintage movie posters, and you see Star Wars in there, Yankee Doodle Dandy with James Cagney, you've got the Barnum and Bailey Circus. They do some other advertising. This French cognac broadsheet is actually quite attractive, but mainly has to do with movies and movie heroes. John Wayne, The Trail Beyond, that's a very early movie for him. They're really fun. You can find these, but it's not too easy. Once in a while, there'll be a warehouse find or something where some will come out.
First time.
Really? You've collected these over the years?
Since the 1980s, yes.
Wow, how interesting.
Only very rare figural ones.
Oh, they're beautiful, and yeah, it's funny. I think I've seen one figural wax seal in all the years I've done this, and here you have.
Well, like I said, this is a collection from the 80s, long term.
How wonderful! They're also just interesting and special.
Oh, yes.
Are there particular ones that stand out more that I should become educated about, and which ones?
The pharaoh, the Egyptian one. He's squashing a frog on the base with an amphora. And in the early 1800s, when France was sort of invading Egypt, their slur term for a Frenchman is a frog.
Oh, that's where that came from.
Yes. So that he is squashing the frog.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's good. And this one was actually made, produced by the artist who did the Statue of Liberty, Bertoldi.
Really? Bertoldi
Yes.
did that?
And it's an American Indian with a hatchet after a snake that's rising out of the ground in the bottom.
That's fascinating. And the headdress of
maybe
the headdress
Seminole
looks Seminole or Southeastern, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So that one may be political somewhat.
That's fascinating,
trying to,
though.
Cut off the snakes that are coming into the grass.
yes, exactly. It's interesting how these things actually have. There's a lot of story and allegory.
To them, yeah.
Fascinating.
And the night, the work on that night. I'll come over.
Oh yeah, even as beautiful as these are, you can tell that one's actually a little more
defined and armor.
Yes.
Full front, full back.
Wow.
This one's a griffin.
Yes.
But he's biting his own tail.
Oh.
He's tired of having that tail.
I'm sure there was some symbolism that represented too. And then the couple here are it looks like a royalty.
Yes, it's carved ivory. We don't know who they are, but Renaissance figures. The Latin inscription on the bottom is, was it Never Despair?
Something like
that.
Nil Desperado.
Desperado. Yeah.
How fascinating. Thank you. Oh, it's so you always have the most wonderful things, to see a collection of items like this.
Right here. It's my most recent. It's in silver, and it's a lion that's fighting a wolf.
Oh.
So that might have had some particular jeweled eyes.
Jeweled eyes
and set
and
of agate.
Agate is set. Mm-hmm. Wow. And when you say most recent, meaning
something about a couple
3 years ago.
something you got recently, because it says it's 1838. That didn't seem terribly recent at all. No. When were I suppose the heyday of this would have been 19th century?
Yeah.
19th, maybe 18th too, depending on.
These are probably more 19th.
More 19th, early to mid. Like I said, that one's dated by the hallmarks.
What a wonderful and fascinating collection.
As soon as they discovered glue and envelopes.
Right, exactly, yes. The self-sealing envelope kind of changed everything.
The wax seals don't go through those machines at the post office.
No, they don't do well. Well, thank you so much. Well, we are at about packing time. It has been a wonderful show. It's been a wonderful season here in Florida. I always feel a little wistful at the end of this show because it is my last of the season. I've met some wonderful new customers, been reunited with some old friends, some of whom hadn't been out for a few years. So it's just been terrific. Well, thank you, Palm Beach. This is what it looks like at the end of the show. I am packed, thanks to help from my friend Dave. A few other people are still doing their thing, but we had fun. A lot of folks had a good show. I had a good show. It was great to be here, and it's been a great season in Florida. Now we are on to other places. I am looking forward to my next adventures, and we will show those to you when they happen. So in the meantime, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Check me out on the social media you see listed below. It's been a real pleasure bringing all of this to you, and bye for now. Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.